first of all, see that your mind is just the current thought and image. Your body is just the current sensation and, if your eyes are open, perception. So now, having seen that, see that you are that which is aware of the current thought, image, sensation and perception. It's easiest to see it with your thoughts. A thought has yet to appear. You are present. The thought appears. You know it. It disappears. You remain. The next thought appears. You know it. It disappears. You remain. The next sensation appears. You know it. The sensation disappears. You remain. You, the knower of your experience, always remains. Thoughts are intermittent, images are intermittent, sensations and perceptions are intermittent, but you remain throughout. You are not made out of an intermittent thought, feeling, sensation or perception. You are just made out of this substance called knowing or awareness. You're present and you're aware, hence awareness. That's the name, but don't go too quickly to the name. Don't just pay lip service to the name. You really have to go there in your experience. Try not to give it a name. Try see in your experience, yes, I am obviously that. Let's just call it that. Whatever it is, I am that which knows or is aware of my experience. It's not made out of a thought. It's not made out of a feeling or sensation or perception, because all these are coming and going. But that has always been with you. In fact, not with you. That is you. You've never ceased to be that, although you may have mistaken yourself for a cluster of temporary thoughts, feelings, sensations and perceptions. But even when you were mistaking yourself for that, or rather even when thoughts and feelings were mistaking you for that, even then you were still only that which is aware of those thoughts and feelings. That's the first step, to realize I am that which is both present and aware, and that is not made out of a thought, sensation or perception. So then you pause there, put thoughts, sensations and perceptions at a distance, just for a while. You put them at a distance, which gives you the time and the space to really look at this that you have discovered you are. I have discovered that I am awareness. I am that which is aware. Now, what are its qualities? Because its qualities are my qualities. What is essential to it? What cannot be removed from it? Thoughts can be removed from it. Feelings can be removed from it. What can't be removed from it? Being and knowing are the first two. It is ever present, and it's a knowing presence or an aware presence. But then we have to go further than that and discover these three essential qualities that it has. It is ever present, it is unlimited, and it is imperturbable. Those are the things. So take time, pause here, put the body-mind world at a distance, give your attention to the knower of your experience, not the known, and discover that in its experience of itself, it is ever present, it never finds a limit in itself, and it cannot be disturbed. Its nature is peace or happiness. That's the most important one. Its nature is peace. Your nature, under all circumstances, is peace. Then, when or as that becomes clear, then go back to the thoughts, sensations and perceptions and explore them in the context of this newfound discovery.
How far back in time do these traditions go? Because at some point, it seems to me that somebody initially intuited this knowledge.
Yeah. This is the great spiritual tradition does not come from a source in time. It comes from the source of ourself. Every person who speaks about these matters, who speaks knowingly about these matters, has referred to the source in themselves, not the source in time. And that is why there is no disagreement. If you go to the essence or the heart of each tradition, there is no disagreement there, because the founders of these traditions, they all went to the same place in themselves, the place that each of us goes to when we take the thought I am and go to the experience to which that thought refers. That is the source of all the traditions. That is the source. The experience I am is the source of the Christian tradition, the Sufi tradition, the Muslim tradition, the Hindu tradition. It's the source of all traditions. That is the source they went to. It's not a source in time. And this is, if this is forgotten, then excessive attention is paid to traditional spiritual literature and lineages of teachers. It's only when the true source and the pathway to that source has been forgotten that we find this excessive allegiance to lineages and traditions.
When you were talking the other day about feelings, and you said you came very close to your feelings and you need a step back and to the I am, and I could not understand this, you know?
Yes.
So
Yes, in the Vedantic approach we take a step back from our experience. In the Tantric approach we take a step forward to our experience. The egoic approach is somewhere in between the two, where we just view our experience from the position of an observer. So we either take a step further back to pure consciousness, or we take a step forward and we merge with the experience. Those are the two possibilities.
So what you just said, it's the Tantric.
That was the Tantric approach, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
The way of inclusion as opposed to the way of exclusion.
Because you talked about that the other day, and I thought, oh, if I step back, I am. It for me, particularly, I would just say, oh, I am. So there is no feelings, no anxiety, no sadness, no, like I would hide it somewhere,
Yes.
So the way you explain now resonates more.
Yeah. Remember, most people are lost in their experience. They think all there is are my thoughts, images, feelings, activities, and relationships. So, in response to that, we extricate ourselves from experience. We recognize, I am pure consciousness. And we abide there until we recognize not just that I am pure consciousness, but the nature of pure consciousness. That's the end of the inward-facing path. We then return to the experience from which we previously separated ourselves and infuse it with, or more accurately, realize that it is a movement of this pure consciousness.
Yeah.
But it's necessary to take this inward-facing path, and the Tantric tradition would agree with this. It is necessary to take this inward, or most expressions of it. Agree that this recognition of pure consciousness is first necessary before we go back to objective experience.
Like right now, talking to you, I feel a bit nervous. I don't know much about. I'm also new with all these terms. I don't.
That's right. If you come to a few of these retreats, you'll take me off the pedestal in a few months' time, and you won't be nervous anymore. Don't worry about it.
No, I don't do anything, right? That's it.
Yes, you're doing the right thing. You're here. You're participating in the meditations and the conversations. You're asking questions if something is not clear to you, and you're hanging out with everyone. That's it. That's it. You don't need to do anything else.
Actually, when you talk, everything in me feels like I'm home.
Yes. This is home.
Yeah,
this is home.
I feel
Yes.
very, very much at home.
Yes, this is
Everything inside me.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I feel like, I get it. Sometimes afterwards, my mind goes like,
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you can't articulate this with your mind, or it doesn't matter. The experience of being at home is something that takes place outside the mind. Whether your mind can make... In time, your mind will make more sense of it, but the most important thing is to be at home. Whether you can articulate it with your mind or not is not so important. The most important thing is to come home, and this that we have here is home.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
As Ashvaka Gita says, all conditioning can be dropped here and now. Is that true, or it will be a gradual process?
It's a gradual process. Your old conditioning can be dropped here and now in the sense that at any moment, here and now, you can go directly to your being, which is prior to conditioning. In that sense, you can drop the being, drop the conditioning, or ignore the conditioning and go directly to your unconditioned being. But the way your body and your mind continue to function in the world will take time to be reorchestrated by your new understanding. Even Ramana Maharshi, he spent 10 years sitting in a cave, acclimatizing to his new understanding and finding a way of living in the world that was consistent with his understanding. He went to his true nature in a process that took 2 minutes. He just went straight there to his unconditioned nature. But it took time for the body and the mind, his activities, to catch up with his new enlightened experience.
Some 5 years ago, I had an awakening, and everything was totally clear, totally obvious, simple. Just that simple change of perspective where you go from being the individual looking at the world and then you are that consciousness in which everything bathes. The intellect never really caught up with it. And I didn't exercise my do any spiritual exercise to maintain it, so I just fell back into habit, and gradually identification started again. The intellect has retained a flavor of this and is now more expanded. And I will be right there in expansion, but it's like there's a thin plastic film that is preventing me, or it's basically the intellect, I believe, that's holding me back in there, because it's bright enough to know that it's unbounded and stupid enough to hold back. I know very well that I'm looking at it from the mind to openness, but openness is just here at that very, very thin line, and I'm stuck.
Consider that your intellect is made of two elements. One, just this luminous knowing, and two, it's particular knowledge. Or we could just say that it's made of these two elements, knowing and knowledge. The knowledge is always temporary and finite. Whatever you know, it is temporary and finite. But knowing remains. So your intellect comprises these two elements, knowing and knowledge. It's you knowing that assumes the form of knowledge and then ceases to assume that form. The knowledge vanishes, but the knowing out of which it was made remains. So it's not that your intellect is a veil that separates you from yourself. Your intellect is yourself. It is pure knowing. That is the only stuff that your knowledge is made of. But everything that you know has a temporary name and form. It is not essential to pure knowing. So just discern. Don't try to get behind your intellect, or don't try to get rid of your intellect. Don't consider it a veil or a problem. Just allow that element of your intellect that is temporary and finite to dissolve, leaving only its essence, pure knowing. All knowledge shines with the knowing of it. Give your attention to the knowing, not to the knowledge. For most people, knowledge veils its reality, pure knowing. You give your attention to the knowing rather than the knowledge, and this knowing will outshine the knowledge. Knowledge will still appear, temporary knowledge will still arise, thoughts, feelings, etc. But it will have lost it will be transparent to its essence, pure knowing.
My question is about unworthiness. I find I have this tendency within me that goes far before I was interested in spirituality, but especially comes out when I sit down to meditate, of invalidating my experience. So as we've kind of turned more the past couple days into coming closer to experience, I find there's part of me that is always looking for something better, is feeling like it's not having a worthy sort of experience. It reminds me a bit of, and I imagine it comes a little from being in school and an attitude of being in class and being asked a question and looking for the right solution. And I find myself coming into that attitude a little bit with these meditations, and it feels like I just spin, and I feel like I've really come to a block with that.
Tell us about the unworthy self, the self that feels unworthy.
Not the feeling of unworthiness, the self.
No, not the feeling of unworthiness, but the self that feels unworthy. When you started by saying, I feel unworthy.
Yeah.
Tell us about the I that feels unworthy.
Feels solid and stuck.
That's a feeling. Don't tell us about your feelings. Tell us about the self that has these feelings. When you say, I feel stuck, don't tell us about the stuckness or the heaviness or the unworthiness. Tell us about the I that feels these things.
The I feels clear.
But if the I feels clear, why do you say, I feel heavy? Does it feel clear or heavy?
So accustomed to finding myself.
Don't worry about what you're accustomed to in the past.
Yeah.
We want to know about the I that feels unworthy now? You've already told us it is clear. Tell us more about it.
It's present.
Yes, what else? Is it stuck?
It can feel sort of like glued to
I
experience.
don't want to know what you feel. I want to know about the I that feels it. You said it's clear, it's present. Is it stuck?
No.
Is it dense?
No.
Is it heavy?
No.
Is it unworthy?
Not now.
So, well, was it ever? Was it ever unworthy? So who felt unworthy? Given that yourself is, you've just described yourself, who did the unworthiness belong to? When you said, I feel unworthy, on whose behalf were you speaking? Obviously not on behalf of yourself. You've just told us about yourself. It's Nick, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick.
Yeah.
You're young. You have a bright future ahead of you. Don't spend the rest of your life thinking and feeling on behalf of a self which, when investigated, cannot be found. It's a waste of a life. You have so much ahead of you. You have such a bright future ahead of you. Make sure you live your life. You have your thoughts, that you have thoughts and feelings and activities and relationships on behalf of the self that you know yourself to be. And don't give any time at all to an imaginary self and its train of feelings.
I think it can just surprise me how at points things can, I can really tune into feeling clear and free as myself.
Well, good, then just at any moment of experience, just tune into that. I mean, yourself is always in the midst of your experience. Yeah? Yourself is never at a distance. Yourself is always available. You are always yourself. So you can go there. You can check out yourself at any moment. At any moment of experience, you can just pause and check out yourself and make sure that the thoughts and feelings you're having and the activities and relationships you're engaged in are in line with your knowledge of yourself. And if they're not, if you find yourself having thoughts and feelings that are not in line with, not on behalf of the self that you are, the only self that you are, ignore them. Don't touch them. Don't get busy trying to get rid of them. Don't get busy trying to fulfill them. Just ignore them.
I think there's some of me too that feels like it really has this expectation of big experience, and that's part of what I love of your teachings.
A big experience, but that's a childish expectation. Yeah, you know that the recognition of the recognition of the nature of your being is not a big experience. It's not an experience at all. Yeah, you know that now. Yeah, so but what happens to the expectation? Don't be too respectful of this expectation. Just abandon it. It's not going to happen. You know that now. You've been here. This is the second time you've been here. You know that now. It's crystal clear. This big awakening experience is not going to happen.
That's lovely to hear.
What's going to happen has already happened. It is happening, or rather it is present now. It's never going to get more present than it is now. Just notice it and lead a life accordingly. Write your songs, sing your music.
But my real question
is just the experience of how M-ness is not personal. I've been pondering that since last year. How it's intimate, yet not personal. So
Yes.
I've been living in that since last year.
Yes,
So
yes.
that's really my question,
Okay.
my experience.
Yes. What makes, you're absolutely right, the amness of ourself, or the essential being of ourself that shines in our experience as the knowledge I am, is utterly intimate. It's not even intimate in the sense that it is close to us. It is us, essentially. But it is impersonal in the sense that it is not qualified by anything that belongs to our particular character. So as long as you keep, it's only when the I am becomes I am this, or I am that it becomes limited and therefore personal. I am my thoughts, I am my memories, I am my relationships, I am my sensations. This is, in this case, our thoughts, memories, images are added to our essential being. Mm-hmm. And our being seems to be mixed with and therefore limited by these additions. All that is necessary is just to go to the pure I am before it is mixed with or limited by experience. And that I am is not something that is not known to us. It is more intimate to us. It is better known to us than any other experience we ever have. It is more intimate to us than any experience, even our most intimate feelings.